and welcome back to another episode of Last Minute Laura. I'm Laura and I'm going to show you today how to dye fabric at home naturally. So what we're going to do today is take something that's in everybody's fridge at home, onions, and turn it into a natural dye of really bright orange, sort of, I would say a burnt orange sort of color. So we're going to take some unbleached cotton muslin like that, and we're going to change it into a more orangey tinge using onions. So what we're going to need for this recipe is the skin of your onions. So what you'd need for that, everybody's got onions in the fridge, you know, these dry bits that you don't eat? Well, don't throw them out. For about 1 to 2 bags of onions, I would say, would give you like a really potent dye. But as you're using your onions, just peel off the skins and put them in a freezer bag in the freezer. They'll store forever, but they make a really cool dye, so it's a great thing to leave less waste behind. And after you finish with the dye, you can still put those skins in the compost, so it's all recycled. So peel the skins off of your onions. Today I'm using yellow onions and small purple shallots. And once you peel the skins off, you can see there's a whole bowl of skins. Add those skins to a big bowl of water, a big pot of water, and then turn the pot on high, get it to a boil, and then let it simmer. After it hits a boil, turn it down to a simmer and let it simmer for about an hour, and that's going to extract all of the orange and yellow pigments out of that skin, allowing it to then be deposited onto your fabric. This is a really great thing if you've got an old white t-shirt that you don't really know what to do with, or if maybe you just need to jazz up something that you already have. You can use this as a natural dye. I have seen people use natural dyes like this on their hair, although for me it's not really viable because my hair colors tend to be a little bit brighter. Not available in this way. So what I'm going to be using today to show you the dyeing process are these little crocheted swatches I made from white cotton yarn. I used the Bernat Handicrafter cotton in white. I'm also using some unbleached cotton muslin. So that's the cheapest fabric you can get at any fabric store, but it's good canvas. It'll make a pretty little thing. I've also got some finer quality unbleached cotton, so that's just a little bit, you'll be able to see the color a little bit differently. I also got some of these bleached cotton notions. They're like used for straps and for binding and things like that, but it's really clear and clean white. I thought it would make a really good dye swatch, plus I can add them to my bullet journal after. So other than those things, you are also going to need a big container. This one's not for where it's boiling. This is after the dye is made. You're going to want to sit your fabric or your yarn or your clothing or whatever you're dyeing. You're going to want to sit it in something pretty big so that you can pour the dye over and let it sit for 4 hours just to absorb as much as it can. You're also going to need a pretty good sized pot. I'm using something about this size just so that there's a lot of room for the water to move around with the onions, and that will again extract as much of the pigment as you can from the onion skins. Another thing that's important, use dry onion skins. If it's wet or not the super dry papery outside, you're going to get a really strong onion smell in your house, and on top of that it doesn't have the same dye in it, or the same pigment, excuse me. You can see as soon as the skin has been peeled off of that onion, it's yellow underneath. There's no real, it's pretty translucent. You're not going to get much out of it. So I'm just going to finish peeling my onions, and then I am going to meet you over by the stove to show you just how I set up my little boiling station. Also, let me know in the comments if you've made any natural dyes in the past and what you used. I'm always looking for new things to try, and one of them that I'm really interested in right now is sustainable, eco-friendly, upcycled, natural, all of that sort of stuff. So dyeing is super fun when it's natural. I've been using some different things I've collected on my walks, like sumac berries. I've used grass clippings, dandelions. I've been trying lots of things, and the videos that are actually going to be published on this channel are just the ones that worked. So I will let you know all of the natural things you can find, at least in Ontario in spring and summer, that you can use to dye your fabrics. I'm just starting with onions because I thought this one would be the most accessible. Everybody has onions. Everybody has onion skins in their fridge. Okay, so now that I've got my onion skins all broken up and ready, I'm just going to fill my pot, a little bit of water just to get it started. I'm going to crunch up those skins just to break up any of the extra dry bits. Then I'm going to add them to my water, and I'm going to cover it with a ton of water. More water than you think you're going to need because it's going to evaporate throughout this cooking process. I'm leaving my heat on maximum, and I'm just going to let this come up to a really vigorous boil, and then I'm going to turn it down to a simmer. And from there, we're going to let it sit at a simmer for 1 hour. All right, so here we have our onion peel dye. It's been simmering for just over an hour now, and what I'm going to do is take a bowl with a strainer in it and pour the onion peels out into that strainer. There we go. And we'll just get all of the peels out. You can grab a ladle just to push out any extra liquid. And we'll put that back over here. And now we're going to take that dye. Oh, I need a glass container. Missed this step. What we're going to do next is take a glass container and put in our pre-soaked pieces. When you're dyeing something, it's always good to pre-soak whatever you're dyeing. Just in water, cool or lukewarm is fine. I did sort of a warm soak. Then put all of the items that you want to dye into your glass container, and then over that just pour in your liquid. And you can see that those orange peels gave this beautiful amber colored liquid. It's going to give us a much more muted orange, orangey yellow sort of tone. Just going to give it a quick easy little mix just so you can see, even just for a second, it's changed the color a little bit. So now that's going to sit in there for 3-4 hours, just until as much of the pigment as possible has absorbed. I'm just going to leave that out on the counter, and we will check back in a couple of hours. Okay guys, so I'm just going to apologize ahead of time. It's the next day now. I did a whole bunch of these dyes yesterday, and I am going to go through them, I promise, but they definitely sat more than 4 hours. So we're going to have a really good outcome, but each of these is going to have their own individual videos, so if you're here to see avocado or onion, come back to see black bean or rose petals or mustard. Anyway, that's all for now. I'm going to deal with this after breakfast. Okay guys, this is the onion. So I left these dyes actually overnight, not because I wanted to see if they got darker, but rather because the sun was gone by the time I wanted to take them out, and I wanted to film this part. So you can see how pretty that came out, and I only used 4 or 5 onions for my batch. If you used a whole bag, you'd probably get an even more brilliant color. So what you're going to need for the next step are a couple of gloves. You're also going to need a big bowl of cold water, or you can fill your sink or tub a little bit. And you're also going to need about a teaspoon of detergent. You could use gentle dish soap, or you could use a cold water sensitive skin like detergent for laundry. Then you're going to want to wash out your fabric that you dyed. This is not going to take out any of the pigment that actually has absorbed into your fabric. Rather, it's just going to help rinse out any of the loose pigment and any of the residual oniony bits, leaving you just with a beautiful colored fabric that is color fast for the most part, and such a pretty color. Look how pretty that turned out. Oh, I love this dye. Okay, just gonna get all of them in there, give them a good squeeze to get most of the water out, and then just give them a good little vigorous rinse. And what I like to do after I've rinsed these out in nice cold soapy water, I like to lay them flat to dry on top of a towel. That'll absorb some of the rest of the water, and it'll also block it if you're using like crochet or knitting. It's nice to block your items, that way they'll be nice and straight and flat. And then from there, after they are totally dry, so I'll give them half a day, sometimes I'll even give it a whole day if I'm just doing it as part of like it's a busy day. And then I'll wash them in cold water in the washing machine, and that'll just get out any residual scent of whatever you were dyeing with. With the onions, the skins don't really smell, so it's not a problem. But with some of the other stuff, like blackberries, for example, you really want to make sure all of the loose pigment comes out so that you don't end up with some purple stains on you. So there we go, that's the rinsed out yarn. And remember, this yarn was totally white, so you can see against that white table how much color payoff we actually got. And you can see how beautifully that color deposited. There's not a ton of speckling or like marbling, it's just like an opaque, perfect color. I really love the color that the orange peels makes. I think it's my favorite of all of the natural dyes. Alright, so I've finished rinsing them out, and I'm just going to lay them out, like I said, on a towel for a couple of hours, and once they are totally dry, I will bring them back and show you the final finished, that's a stain from a different dye. I will show you the final finished product. Look at how pretty that is though. Alright, I will see you in a couple of hours. Okay, so we've got our unbleached cotton muslin for reference, we've got our white bleached cotton, and we've got our bleached cotton tape. And now time for the big reveal. Look at this color! I just can't. I can't with this. It's the most amazing. This to me is the closest thing to magic I think I've ever seen, because wow. This is from onion peels. I only had the peels from 2 large yellow onions, or medium-sized I would say. 2 medium-sized yellow onions and about 4 or 5 small purple shallots. But what? Look at this orange. Look at how beautiful it is. This is what the yarn was. This is what it became. It's magnificent. I am totally obsessed with this color. I love it. It's like somewhere in the range of camel, but if you turned up the saturation on it to 100%. It's like 100% saturated camel. I am obsessed. I am so excited to use this for something, this yarn. I'm going to pull apart this swatch, and I'm going to use some of the other colors that I've made in my natural dyeing videos. I'm gonna make something new with all of these beautiful colors. Look at these. Look at what that color payoff, just these alone is magic. It's the most beautiful shade. It was white. Now look at it. Look at the unbleached, oops. Look at the unbleached cotton. Just a beautiful shade. It's really beautiful. So natural looking and yet so bright. It's such a beautiful burnt orange, burnt umber. I don't even know. It's amazing and I'm obsessed with it. So I hope that you're obsessed with it, because if you're not, then why are you still watching this video, I guess? Maybe for all of my rings or my commentary? It doesn't matter. Point is, anybody could do this. You could do this with your kids. You could do this if you're a teacher with your students. It's all non-toxic unless you're allergic to onions, because it's made with onions. But yeah, I really do hope that you give this a try, because it's so much fun and it's such a beautiful outcome that you get from it. And it's, I don't know, it makes your item one of a kind. So if you buy white yarn, crochet something beautiful, you can dip dye it and come out with some beautiful colors that nobody else is gonna have. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you liked it, let me know. If you didn't like it, let me know, because I am definitely trying to improve and I'm trying to maintain some kind of theme on this channel. So feedback is always appreciated. Also, thank you so much for watching to this point, and I can't wait to see you in the comments. Thanks, guys. See you next time.